Let's go live to Ipswich in Queensland. Our political editor Andrew Clennell's been continuing his door knock series with a candidate there in the seat of Blair. Andrew, we'll get to the door knocking in a moment, but let's start with the broader issue that's been dominating the campaign today. That being, as we heard in our opening introduction there, Anthony Albanese talking about the minimum wage and agreeing that he supports an increase in the minimum wage by the Fair Work Commission at the inflation rate of 5.1% on an annual basis. It's copped some flack from the government as policy on the run and from some economists suggesting there's no magic pudding, Andrew.
Well, he couldn't name the unemployment rate at the start of the campaign. He couldn't name the cash rate. He couldn't name the 6 points of his NDIS policy. Now, has Anthony Albanese made another gaffe here? Has he overreached when it comes to how much wages should rise by? Because wouldn't that just put pressure on inflation? Now, the Reserve Bank, Kieran, said the other day wages are going up in Australia. Anecdotally, I think people know that or will hear that. I met a restaurant owner from Sydney in Canberra the other night who was telling me he had to pay his wait staff $5 an hour extra just to get them to come to work because otherwise they'd get work elsewhere. And we know that's because the international borders are shut. We know migrants need to come in, or temporary visa holders, in order to help with these labour shortages. We know it's about COVID and supply chains as well. So if wages are moving and Labor has promised to lift wages, why do you need this level of government intervention that Anthony Albanese is talking about and his people seem to be stepping back, which is suggesting that you tell the Fair Work Commission you raise wages at the rate of inflation? Typically, they've been raised, the minimum wage, at about 2 or 3%. And as Stephen Hamilton, the economist, just pointed out to you in the last hour, it's not just the minimum wage, it's not just the poorest in our society. The awards and all the union claims get pinned to that. So you raise that, you effectively raise all the other wages. Now, a few different positions in terms of Albanese's comments, which seem to have been made on the fly from various Labor front benches, including Albanese himself today. Let's listen to a compile of that.
So do you support the 5.5%?
No, the 5.5 is higher, of course, than the inflation rate.
Does that mean you would support a wage hike of at least 5.1% just to keep up with inflation?
Absolutely. My response to that is, what's controversial about wages keeping up with the cost of living?
You got in economic advice along these lines to say it's reasonable to lift wages or the minimum wage by 5.1%?
Kieran, first of all, that is a misstatement of what was said today. What Anthony made clear is that people's wages should keep pace so that they can pay for the rising costs of living.
So Jason Clare says it's fair enough. He's the campaign spokesman. Christina Keneally's been a campaign spokeswoman. She said it's a misstatement. Confused, so am I. Here's the opposition industrial relations spokesman, Tony Burke. He was on Sunday Agenda with me, and he was asked by me, should the minimum wage go up? He was a lot more cautious on his answer. You want to lift the minimum wage?
Oh, we want to be able to see the minimum. We want to be able to see the minimum wage continue to go forward. Now, the current process, where that's at in submissions in terms of the timing of the election, is very late.
And of course, the government seized on this. They have said once again, do you really want Anthony Albanese in charge of the economy? Scott Morrison was Treasurer for 3 years. He's been involved in putting together 7 budgets. Jim Chalmers hasn't really put a foot wrong as Shadow Treasurer in this campaign, but on occasion he must have been tearing his hair out at Anthony Albanese. Here's the Finance Minister, Simon Birmingham, this afternoon.
Today we saw a remarkable example of Anthony Albanese making up economic policy on the run. Throughout the history of the Fair Work Commission, no Australian government or opposition has ever put a figure on the rate of the annual wage increase.
So, Kieran, you know I've been here in the seat of Blair, the marginal Labor seat, and every door we knocked with the LNP candidate, cost of living was mentioned. It really was. But I think the question here is, with such positive poll results at the start of the week, has a degree of hubris crept in as far as Anthony Albanese is concerned? And is that why he misspoke on that question today? Unless, of course, it is his intention to have everyone's wage rise by 5% in Australia this year, certainly minimum wages, but has he factored in what effect that will have on inflation and in turn interest rates? It'll be interesting to see what Jim Chalmers and Anthony Albanese have to say about this over the next few days.